Hey there, welcome to Equifit. Today in this video, we're going to talk about the proper ways of leading your horse. Now, there's a couple different mechanisms for leading, depending on what it is you're trying to accomplish. But what we're going to talk about is just leading as in taking your horse out of his stall, maybe leading him to a paddock or leading him to the pasture or back and forth, or leading him in between things. Maybe you're leading him from the barn to the riding hall. So what we need in order to do that is a simple halter. It could be a rope halter, a leather halter, nylon halter. And then we also need a lead rope. Okay, and that lead rope could be attached by a number of mechanisms. Some of them are going to be attached. Some of them are just going to have a clip on them, have a bull snap on them, or a panic snap. And they're generally going to be somewhere between 6 to 8 feet long. Okay, so this is pretty much standard. Now today, you notice I have both my lead rope and I also have a dressage whip in my hand. Okay, and the dressage whip is going to act as an extension of my arm. And I'll show you in a minute why I might need that extension of my arm. So first thing I'm going to do is show you the proper way that I would like for him to lead. Now a lot of us have learned, because we probably did some type of showmanship in the ring as children, and they showed us that they wanted our hands like right here so that we're able to control that horse's head in either direction and get that momentum to go forward. That way I don't have a lot of lax or strands in between here. I can get a direct message to him. But today I would really like to have a loop in my lead rope right here, just a little bit of a loop, and I would like for him to be at about an arm's length distance away from me. Now, I would like that arm's length distance away from me because that enables his feet to stay off of my feet. I want him to stay in his lane so that I can walk in mine. Now, this horse is very well trained at leading. So, but if he were younger, a younger horse that I was teaching to lead, now my position is going to be a little bit different. I might actually go in front of him and have him actually following me, because that really does put me in a more dominant lead position. But right now, the leading that I'm going to show you is more as a partnership. So I'm partnering with him, going to the destination that we're headed for. So what I want to be able to do is take this excess, and I want to be able to have my hand on top of this and never wrapped around it. Okay? If this horse were to spook or to pull away suddenly, that actually could be enough force to really wrench my hand, break my wrist or finger, whatnot. So I always want to make sure I have my hand on top of these loops, and it's in my outside hand along with my extension. My leading hand is going to have the loop, and I'm just going to let this kind of fall right in between, in front of my body. Now, I don't want it here because I don't want to step on it, and I also don't want him to step on it either. So I want to make sure I don't have that much slack down there. So I'm going to take that up just a little bit and still be able to give myself a proper loop here. Now, as I ask him to go forward, I want to take my hand forward and ask him to move his feet first. As he takes his first step, then I'm going to take my step. And I want you to pay close attention to where his throat latch is in comparison to where my shoulder is. And that's that sweet spot that I want him to travel in. So take a look at this. Now, what I wanted you to pay attention to is the position of where his throat latch is right here and how it's connecting to my shoulder. Now, I want to keep him, again, at about an arm's length distance, but I want him to stay pretty much close to where my shoulder is and stay within that zone. That's kind of calling my drive line. I have a drive line that would go this way. Okay, all the horses have drive lines. I have one that will go in front and to the back, and one that travels horizontally. So I want him to always stay within that zone and fairly well close to me. That way he has a visual on me, and he's following my body language as much as he is my hand signals that are on this lead rope. Now, there are also some improper ways that people lead, and usually these are things that they do because they've developed some bad habits. And one of those is that they let the horse get in front of them, okay? So, for instance, now I want him to manage himself. I want him to always find the correct position that he's supposed to be in. So if I let him get ahead of me, then that means he is now leading me, because now I am at his drive line, which is basically right here behind his shoulder. So if I get back here, he's now in charge, and he can just take me wherever he wants to go. The other improper way that you see people lead their horses is by letting them just sort of drag behind. So I'm up here and he's trailing behind me, and then you see them tugging and pulling. He doesn't like to do that. He knows he's not supposed to be out of position. But you will see them tugging and pulling to get those horses forward, okay? That means now they're lagging behind. And if you have a horse that is just slow to respond, maybe they're just looking around and they're not paying attention to you, then that's where this little doodad comes into play. This is going to be an extension of my arm. Okay, I'm not here to whip or beat the horse with it, but I am going to tap him with it to have him move forward. So for instance, if he's doing his, I'm going to drag my feet in the sand, and I'm not going to walk at your shoulder, then all I have to do without looking at him, I'm still looking in the direction that we're traveling. All I need to do is to take my hand behind me and be able to tap until he moves forward. And that's enough response right there. I got his attention, and he gave me the response that I wanted him to have. Now, there are some other things that can happen as far as horses that are not well behaved on the lead line. Now, the last problem that I want to talk about, this is a very common problem when people are leading horses, especially like at this time of year, because right now we're in the Midwest and it's cold. So that means our horses get a little frisky and a little wired when they're being walked out to the pasture. So a lot of times they've come out of their stalls and they've got all this adrenaline, they're ready to run. But we want them to be mindful of the fact that we are still on the end of this lead rope, okay? And a lot of times their brains are already out there in the pasture with their friends, and they're not thinking about us being on the end of this lead rope. So what you'll have oftentimes is the horse will get real fast, and they just start fighting, and they get the little shaking in the head, and they get that little attitude up and say, okay, honey, no. Now, when they're already in that state, pulling on them and pulling on them and pulling on them or yelling at them is not really going to be very effective, because what you want to do is stop the energy from going forward. So what you have to do then is to put energy in front of them. So if he were to get in front of me, and he's not going to like it very much right now, so I'm going to take the end of this lead rope and I'm going to put some energy out in front of him. Now, if he does not back up, that energy is going to bop him right in the nose. And you see what he does. He backs up and he puts himself back in position. So without doing anything, yelling, screaming, pulling, all I do is create some energy with the end of my lead rope. Just a little bit of energy. And if they choose not to move, they'll choose to get bopped in the nose, which they're like, oh, I don't like that, so I'm going to get out of the way of that. And it's very easy to do, and it's also a lot more respectful, because then he figures out that, oh yes, I got to pay attention to the fact that you're on the end of this lead rope. So that's all we have for today. I hope you benefited from this video about leading, and I hope it makes all of your little journeys from paddock to pasture a lot more efficient and a lot safer for you. Join us in some of the rest of our videos, and if you would like some more information about some of the things that we do or some of our trainings, drop a little comment down or subscribe to our channel. What do you think about that? See you next time.